Hello everyone, welcome to the Neil Oliver channel, for such it is. Thanks for tuning in this instance for my weekly monologue, but the monologue is only the tip of the iceberg. I don't know if you're aware of the nature of the channel here, but we have an eclectic mix. As well as current affairs, we deal with history, contemporary, modern, ancient history, archaeology, anthropology. We talk about the paranormal, ghost stories if you like, and everything in that general neck of the woods. We have interviews, we bring on guests, we talk about anything and everything, from health to politics to ancient history again. It's all there, so I hope you explore it. Suffice it to say, if you go onto my patreon.com site and join up, then you become a member of the family, you get exclusive access to weekly content, you get early access to all content, you become part of the community, they're part of the family. Get on there. Here's a quick message as well from our new sponsors who are doing the very important job of keeping the wheels on the bus. They are our first sponsor. They're called Gold Bullion Partners. They're a good bunch. To give you an idea of what they're about, this is one of the things they say, quote, "Owning gold and silver is about wealth preservation, safety and control, not speculation." So what they do is help and advise people who want to buy and invest in gold and silver. And in the process of talking to you directly, they'll find out if it's something that will suit you. To find out more, there are notes below this video and on my website, previously mentioned neiloliver.com. Okay, time to uncover another aspect of what the powers that ought not to be are up to this week. Britons are being robbed blind by government. Nothing new there, obviously, except it's getting worse by the hour. I say government in scare quotes, only so you know which crime syndicate I'm talking about, which crime syndicate I'm specifically referring to today. Really, just to be clear, the elected representatives, to use more meaningless jargon, I use representative very loosely too, since they represent none but themselves and their paymasters, and certainly not their constituents, those crooks. Anyway, they constitute, in reality, nothing but an administration, not a government. In a democracy, if that's what we live in, which I very much doubt, in a democracy, the people govern themselves and administrations administer their wishes. They're supposed to administer what we say, but that's another story. In any event, with every passing day, this administration, if that's the right word to describe them, really, notionally Labour, but of course in the age of the uniparty, the names of the political parties mean nothing at all, since they're literally all the same and they're just taking turns to prosecute the same war against the people, us, the people they demonstrably, uniformly loathe. With every passing day, the administration comes closer, finally, to scraping the bottom of the barrel. Tax is theft. It goes without saying. Income tax being the worst of it, but only the worst. Taxation is an administration and the establishment colluding with it, in broad daylight, shoving its metaphorical paws into metaphorical pockets and taking whatever it finds there for itself. Any pretense that tax pays for things at home, like hospitals and doctors and nurses and schools and teachers, maintaining the fabric of communities, fixing the pavements, clearing the drains, fixing the roads and streetlights, all of that, any pretense of that sort has long been exposed as nonsense. When administrations want money, the banks, which are, remember, private businesses operated only for profit by entirely unaccountable, secretive business people, those banks just create said money, again a word in scare quotes, out of nothing. The administration then sprays those funds up the wall on ruinously pointless things like wind turbines and solar farms and the like. Or else they just bundle it up and send it to places like Ukraine, where it can be laundered before making its way back into the pockets of the usual suspects. Tax is just a way to make sure you have less of the money you've earned. Ideally, from the point of view of the administration, that you have no money at all. 100% taxation can only be just around the corner. Tax is just another tool, not unlike inflation, which is invisible tax. It's entirely in the power of the same bankers and it ensures that even more people find it impossible to live on the money they earn by honest graft. Inflation doesn't just happen, banks do it to make you poor. As previously mentioned, we're presently in the grip of an administration calling itself Labour, ha ha. While the notionally Tory ideology is, simply put, capitalism, the notionally Labour ideology is communism. For people living under the yoke of either, or indeed any ism, the net result is the same, of course. The thief might arrive in a different coloured outfit, but he's come to take what's yours, one way or the other. Since we're enthralled, though, to a bunch of crooks notionally communist or socialist, take your pick, it's worth my pointing out that communism and socialism are about waiting for someone somewhere to earn some money, or maybe make something, like a business, and then taking that something off them. A fisherman might have his hook in the river, but the communist or the socialist has his back to the river and his hook in the bucket where the fisherman has put the fish he's caught. Communism is the recalcitrant, obnoxious, selfish, work-shy brat squeezed out by the worst parents on any given street. And so now in Britain we have a Labour-badged administration led by two-tier Keir Starmer, who presides over a judiciary that is jailing people who put up questionable posts on social media for longer than those who, just as a for instance, sexually abuse kids. I'm only not using the R word because YouTube tends to censor things if you put the R word in, believe it or not. Two-tier Keir, who'll have the police let you protest in the street as long as your protest happens to help his agenda, but will have the police round you up and throw you in a cell if it doesn't. Keir's deputy Prime Minister is Angela Rayner, and her name is regularly bandied about in connection with something or other that makes life harder than it was already for regular people trying to mind their own business and maybe get on in life. At the moment, and talk about robbing folk blind in spirit, if not in fact, talk about robbing folk blind as we were. One of Rayner's latest abominations is the selling off of land set aside for allotments. Now, if there was a concept more firmly rooted, pardon the pun, in the needs and wants of the working poor, then it's surely access to land where a person might grow some of their own food. The history of allotments begins in the Middle Ages, when landowners enclosed what had previously been common ground, accessed and maybe cultivated by one and all. Ironically, for anyone calling him or herself a communist, it was in the aftermath of the English Civil War that a little group of proto-communists, militant but non-violent, called themselves the Diggers, and they began cultivating what had previously been common land but that had since been claimed by landowners. The Diggers said the Civil War had been fought against the king and other landowners, and that in its aftermath land should be made available again for the poor to cultivate. Food prices were high, talk about a cost of living crisis, and the prices had rocketed during the war. And the point made then by the Diggers, though they were crushed soon enough, no surprises there, has persisted to the present day in the form of allotments upon which hungry people might supplement their meagre diets. Even today, in the 21st century, the National Allotment Association says many people still depend on their allotment for the food they eat. It's not just a leisure pursuit for the middle classes wanting to grow a bit of wasabi. For a lot of people, it's actually the food they eat because they can't afford the stuff in the shops. 1 in 8 citizens has no garden in Britain, and it rises to 1 in 5 in cities like London. No garden, no outdoor space. But now, Rayner's Labour have signed off on the sell-off of allotments by the councils trusted with administering them in Derbyshire, Kent, Hertfordshire, Nottinghamshire, Somerset and West Sussex. And developers have already got plans underway to build houses on some of the plots. It's all too mean and grasping to contemplate. The so-called inheritors of the ideology of those poor who risked all to demand the right to grow some food of their own, taking that land and selling it on for short-term profit. You can only sell an allotment once. People have been growing food, provender, on those allotments for centuries. Year after year, holding after holding. You can only sell it once, it's gone. It's all too mean and grasping and venal to contemplate, except it's been perpetrated and executed by the same administration that's now slapping council tax on garden sheds. I kid you not. As well as helping themselves to anything and everything belonging to anyone else, communists and socialists, frankly no more and no less than their capitalist counterparts, but as I have said, in Britain right now, it's the former that we're presently dealing with. But the likes of the Labour Party, fronted by Starmer and Rayner, demonstrably hate other people having anything. It's more than hatred, in that their kind positively writhe in their beds at night at the thought that someone somewhere might be enjoying something, even something in that someone's back garden. Those grasping thieves want the farms, they want every last sou of other people's income. They want to stop anyone growing food, far less keeping a chicken that might lay an egg. They absolutely can't bear the thought of you having a little place of refuge in your back garden. They want to know what you're thinking. They want to know what you might plan to do or even say in the future before you think or say it or do it. They want to stop you thinking, far less saying anything they don't agree with. If you're Christian, preaching in the street, or even praying silently, just inside the last private space that is the human skull, then you face arrest for any and all of the above. And now they're after taxing sheds. If the structure can be described by visiting council lackeys tasked with raising the tax as being, by some stretch of the imagination, a, quote, self-contained dwelling, God help you. If it maybe has a rudimentary living space, a couch, far less a bathroom, or maybe a kitchen, then brace yourself for a council tax ban being slapped on it. Folk are already reporting being bullied about basic storage sheds or rundown garden buildings. Officially in the frame for the tax anyway are garden sheds or summer houses fitted with heating or running water, garden offices used regularly for work, even spare rooms in the house that have been adapted for what they call, quote, rental or independent living. As I said, Britons are being robbed blind by so-called government of anything and everything that might bring a bit of pleasure. A shed for an amateur gardener to pot some geraniums in. A summer house for a bit of peace on a deck chair with a book and a cup of tea and a diggy bicky. A garage for a bit of tinkering with an old motorbike. A few square yards of ground where people down through centuries have scraped by on the edge of poverty, even hunger and malnutrition. Some ground where such might grow a few potatoes. These, then, are the people we are up against. This is the mindset we are up against. At what point does silence in the face of such, far less complicity with it, make us as bad as them by sins of omission? At what point does it become the obligation of the moral man or woman to push back and push back hard?